Hello, everybody. We are getting ready to launch, and we will get going here in just a few minutes where people are still logging in. And so we will get started shortly. But thank you for coming. We'll be back with you shortly. Well, welcome, everybody. This is Tom Telementis with Technology Solution Consultants. We are excited to present our presentation today on the Unity client for OnBase. I see people are still joining at the moment, but we're excited to see so many folks hop on today. Our presenter today is Colleen Elber. She's a product evangelist with Highland Software, the makers of OnBase, for the last 15 years. And so she's going to be running the presentation today. And please, any questions that you have, go ahead and use the question box, the chat box, to go ahead and submit questions. We'll be taking those throughout the presentation and address those as they fit into the presentation. So, and you're also welcome to submit questions at the very end. So if anyone has anything that they're really hoping to see today, go ahead and enter it in there. Otherwise, we are about ready to get going. But very excited to see a large number of folks attend that had registered. So Colleen, if you are ready, I'd love to hand it over to you.
I am ready. Thank you, Tom. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here as an extended part of the TSC family to share with you today some tips and tricks, a little bit of training on the OnBase Unity client. And hopefully these tools that I'll share with you today will help you and your users optimize your Unity client experience. And I know some of the names on the line, and I know some of you have the Unity client already. I hope that you will learn about a new feature that you previously did not know existed. I know some of you are not yet on the Unity client platform. That's okay too. This will bring some awareness to the breadth of the application and maybe how it might be a nice upgrade for you for what you're currently using. So with that, we'll jump right in. I would love for this to be as interactive as possible. So please type in any questions you have. I have Jamin Steelman on standby who will interrupt me with any questions as they come in, because I'd like to take them right as we're talking about a particular topic. So Highland Software has grown in the 15 years that I have been with the organization. When I started in 2005, we were roughly 400 employees with one flagship product, and that was OnBase. And while OnBase still is our flagship product, the Highland platform and portfolio has grown, as has the number of our offices and the number of employees. We're now up to 4,000 individuals working at Highland Software. But one thing about Highland remains the same, and that is of our 4 pillars, the 4 pillars of our platform and what we offer, we are all in on the complete view. If I were to give you the most simplest answer for what does Highland do, it's we provide a complete view of information to the people that need it, when and where they need it most. And this complete view is facilitated part and parcel by the Unity Client. The Unity Client is part of our OnBase client family. So you're likely familiar with the OnBase Thick client. That's the desktop installed Thick client, or maybe even the web client, which is browser-based. The Unity Client falls somewhere in the middle. It's a smart client application, meaning that while there is a small desktop component, the infrastructure is more web-like, but it has the look and feel of Microsoft Office products to ease transition. You know, to those that know the Office tools, Unity will be a breeze because it's got that same tab ribbon, the same large colorful icons. The look and feel of the OnBase Unity Client is very similar to applications that users already know and love. But if you walk away with one thing, it's that Unity is more than just a client interface. It truly is a platform. And what I mean by that is that it is a client for accessing information, providing that complete view. It's also an offline tool. It's an integration utility. We have integrations with Office and Outlook and others that utilize this same look and feel and same architecture. You know, it's also an electronic forms development tool. You may be familiar with our no-code Unity forms. That'll be a future webinar. But Unity means a lot of things to us at Highland. We're focusing on the Unity Client today, but know that when you invest in Unity, your time and resources and utilizing the Unity platform, you know, you're going to see the breadth of the functionality extend just beyond launching that Unity Client. You'll see it in your integrations, in your forms tool, in your offline access, and more. But we're going to focus today on the Unity Client, and we're going to jump right in. So for those that haven't seen Unity before, this is the home screen. This is the personal page, complete with a little login banner. And I have it here highlighted in pink, welcoming you to our webinar today. And a fun feature of the login banner is that it allows an administrator to send a message to their end user or users the next time they log in. It could be, hey, we're upgrading over the weekend. It could also be something a little more fun. I talked to a lot of customers that use this little login banner for periodic tips and tricks, like, hey, did you know that you have an internal mail or an envelopes feature that you can take advantage of here in the Unity Client? They're just little pop-ups, announcements, reminders to users as they log into Unity. So ways for the administrator to communicate to the end users, and these can be configured in OnBase configuration, and they can be specific to a user group and set over a particular date range. So this is the login banner feature. Once I've clicked OK on that login banner, here I'm taking a look at my own personal page. So if I'm logged in as Colleen Elber, these different tiles are shortcuts, just like you might have shortcuts on your desktop that will jump to, you will jump to individual pieces of the software. So in the upper left-hand corner, you see AP document search. That's popping open a custom query. This might be a shortcut or a tile that leads me to a particular document. So it's just like a shortcut to an individual document or a folder. Two that I want to highlight here, you'll see PO invoices. You'll also see hire and reject on the right-hand side. Those are actually workflow queues. And within that individual tile are 2 documents in this case that need to be reviewed or acknowledged. So I can click on a link, open up that document, acknowledge it or approve it. And then I'll even see the count for my personal page tile update as I come in. So there's lots of different ways to personalize, as you know, pun intended, the personal page. And you can even have an administrator push out a default set of tiles for a user or user group. And we'll talk more about how that's done later. But all of these tiles can be recolored, they can be moved around, slided right and left, so that I can really build my own homepage or personal page for the items that I use most. And we have shortcuts that'll take you to everything from workflow to individual documents to items in a reading group to reporting dashboards so that you can get the latest metrics on your business operations. Kind of hand in hand with the personal page is the home page. And you'll see in the upper left-hand corner here, I kind of have it highlighted, the ability to set a home page. So I happen to be on my personal page and I have set that as my home page. But for some users, they're not, and I say this in a nice way, they're not jumping around the Unity client to different features and functions. They're always in workflow. That's where they need to be. Or they're always indexing documents because they're part of a capture process. They could set that particular layout to be their homepage so that every time they log in, they're right in workflow. They're right in reporting dashboards. They're right within that indexing queue of documents to ingest into the system. So setting up that homepage is also something that could be pushed out by an administrator and then later customized by a user. And then next in this little family is that of favorites. So I've got my home page set. And here I have my personal page tiles, and this is going to be what I see every time I log in. I can also make a list of favorites. So just like you might set favorites in Internet Explorer, you can set favorites here. What I really like about the favorites is, let's say I have this AP purchase requisition form as a favorite. Right here, it's kind of faded out because I'm not selecting it. But you can actually open this form in a separate window. So you'll maintain the personal page tiles while opening up this AP purchase requisition in a separate window. So this can be particularly helpful, let's say, if your homepage is workflow and you're processing some items, and then as part of that, you also need to fill out an additional form. You can navigate over to your favorites while still in workflow and then open this form a little bit separate. So in that separate window over on your second screen. And those three, that little family of personal page, home, and favorites, really help personalize the Unity client for that user. You know, as we know, OnBase is very vast. It has a lot of features, and this allows us to narrow down to just that primary set that an individual user might need. So type in any questions that you might have on any of those personalization type features. Happy to answer them. I should also mention that I have a live demo ready at any moment if we need to jump there to see a little bit more, but I'm kind of waiting to hear what you might have more interest in, and then we'll go that direction as our training time permits. So next, let's talk about import. This is not your production volume scanning, although that is part of Unity as well. This is an ad hoc import. Maybe I'm browsing to a particular file location. I can drag and drop from my desktop. It's great out here, but you'll see that acquire button. You actually get ad hoc scanning capabilities for free or included with the Unity client. So any user that has a Windows imaging acquisition or a Twain compliant device connected to their machine, we can acquire directly from the camera or the scanner and bring those documents into the Unity client. For those of you that are still on the OnBase client, you may notice something uniquely different here within Unity, and that's that right in the center of our import layout, we actually get a preview of the document as it's being ingested. So in the OnBase client, you actually don't see the document as you're importing it, yet you're asked to index it. Well, here we nestle the document right next to the import keyword panel, and I can bring the document in. A little fun fact, throwing back to our personal page, you can create an import tile on your personal page, and that import tile can be set with a default document type. So if you're constantly importing AP vendor invoices, set up that little tile, click the button, drag it in. It's going to be pre-configured with that document type. So it's just saving that extra step of having to mine through 10, 20, 30 different document types that may be assigned to that user. So there's a lot of little niceties in Unity that sometimes go unnoticed, but can eliminate several mouse or keyboard clicks for the user. So I've imported the document and now I'm looking at it. Now I'll talk about this option in a minute that allows me to do this, but I'm coming from my import layout, and down at the bottom, if I click import, there's actually an option that will allow me to open the document immediately after upload. So those coming from the OnBase client, you may recall, or maybe you don't even think about it, but you're importing the document. And then if you need to do something with it, you're forced to go to document retrieval, find it, and bring it up. Unity allows you to open that document immediately after import. And it additionally provides what we like to call an integrated workflow experience. So that means that you don't have to be in the workflow interface to exercise or to decision a document in workflow. We bring the workflow experience to the document, and you'll know if a document is in workflow, from this task tab in the top. So if you see in the very top, that task tab, it's, these tabs are critical. I've just opened this document. It's letting me know it's in a workflow. I have signature capabilities, electronic signature capabilities on this document if I choose. I see my image tab as well. That lets me know this is an image file, and there's lots of features that are unique to images. Maybe I want to do some markups on the document using those image markups to redact information or to add arrows and circles, a little different from our notes because they're permanently burned into the document. So those tabs at the top let me know and give me clues as to the types of document that I'm looking at and what capabilities are available for me. So this is my integrated workflow experience. Now, how did I bring this right up? We actually have an options down here at our import that will allow me to open the document after import and or delete the files after import. So in my multiple drag drop scenario where I'm taking these 3 invoices from my desktop, I could delete those from my desktop. It'll just move them to the recycle bin. They're not like, gone into the abyss forever, but it will move them to the recycle bin after they are imported off the desktop, eliminating that redundancy. You'll see the documents on the right-hand side. And in this case, you could open these, you can bring these documents in as individual files, or you can bring them in as a single file and then split them up later. And we'll talk a little bit about the document editor and document separation later. I hear probably 50% customers asking me, how do I split up this giant image that I have? It's actually got 16 different invoices in it. And then I also hear just as many people asking, I have 16 different files and I want to combine them into one document. What can I do? Well, we've got answers for both of those, and I'm happy to clarify some of those at the end if we don't get them to enough detail here. But these options are critical because they're just those extra little things that are now eliminating this duplicate copy. And if nothing else, sometimes it's the nice to have of like, okay, well, they're no longer on the desktop, so they're in OnBase. They're still on the desktop. Then I'm wondering, did I import them? Did I kick it off? Did I kick off the workflow? So now these come in and I can decision them via workflow.
Hey, Colleen.
Yes.
We did have a question come in from Arabella, and she asked if we could just quickly show again how I can add my workflow queue to my homepage when you have a moment. When it
Sure,
makes sense.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I can actually demo that one live.
See, now you just go above and beyond. There you go.
Yeah. So we'll put that on our list, and at the end I'd be happy to demo it. But just to give you the quick answer, if you go to the workflow queue, there is an option or a right click on the queue in the workflow. So Arabelle, if you're looking at your workflow tree, almost like here how I have my list of document type groups, and you right click on the workflow queue from the tree, you should get an option that says add to personal page. And it will then add that individual queue to your personal page. So give that a try in your system now, and then just message back to Jamin if you'd like to see a demo of that later. But right on the queue name in workflow, if you go into the tree, right click and it should say add to personal page. Then if you go back to your personal page, you should see just that individual queue with the items and the count there. Good question, thank you. It's always nice to say like, okay, somebody's, it's resonating and there's a tip that might be useful for you. So thank you for that question and comment. So next we'll move to document retrieval. So this is our standard document retrieval that you're familiar with in client or web client. Here I have my document type groups, and of course that is going to then filter to my individual document types that are part of that group. And all on the left-hand side, I'm combining document type, date, keyword, full text search, note search. Know that those little sticky notes, electronic sticky notes that we put on our documents, those are text searchable in Unity as well. And you can combine all of that search criteria into a single view. We've got a beautiful highlight here on the document type or type that has been selected. And you'll see some of these little gripper bars here. They're a light blue So we'll see one there and we'll see one there, just that kind of separates our document type and our date range. They're the two double blue lines that you're seeing on the right and the left. Those, if you grab those and drag them up or drag them right and left, it will actually minimize this keyword panel for you, so that once you've got your selection made, the full view is left to the document types. You know, in my demo, I've got a very short document type name, but your document name might be pretty long if you've got a lot of keywords in there, and you're certainly going to want all of this real estate. So collapsing that panel is a nice way to maximize the real estate. Full text search is a separate license that you can add on to any OnBase system, but it makes every word within a document searchable, so allowing you to search beyond keywords. You see down at the bottom the document viewer kind of gripper bar, and I'm going to click on that, and it will open the document that I have selected. And what this allows me to do is, instead of the document opening up in a separate pane, I now have everything in one place. I can click through or mouse through this list of documents, and it will actually toggle in the viewer. I see the number of pages. I can show or hide thumbnails, notes, all of that good stuff. I see that this is a revision. So for those of you that aren't using EDM services, you may not have these little brackets here, or you have the brackets with just the one. But this two that I'm seeing right here in the center shows me that there's actually two revisions of this packing slip. You may be thinking, well, like an image document that's a packing slip, how does that have a revision? That's something that we're used to seeing with Word documents. Well, this packing slip, maybe it was marked up. Maybe someone circled some things, they signed it, they burned a date stamp on there. So now we have the original that came in the package, and we have this marked up copy, and that's indicated to us. We'll always see the most recent, and then we can right click to get to those previous revisions. And then last in this little document view, we have our information panel on the right hand side. So I've got my document name, my viewer, and my information panel there on the right. And that red X in the upper right hand corner, that's where you'll close out the panel to get that real estate back. But it's more than just keywords. So down here at the bottom, you see that little key. I'll zoom in so you can see it. Next to that is the notes. So you'll get to see any document notes in the panel. You have an option in Unity to splatter the face of the document with the notes, or to just have them in this little panel. And of course, they'll always be in the panel. Some like the notes on the face of the document. Others have too many notes and they'd rather see them in the notes panel. We see our cross references there. That's the two documents with the green arrow. And then lastly is our collaboration discussions. So these are conversations about OnBase documents. And the thought being, a lot of these tools came from, software that we're already used to. And this particular idea came from, somebody posts a photo to Facebook, and we're all commenting back and forth with those little nested and threaded discussions. It would make no sense if all of that commentary was separated from the photo. Well, the same is true here in the Unity client. We want to keep that conversation right in line with the document, so that I can say, hey, was this paid? Did we receive these items? I don't know, maybe we should check with Sue. We can have all of that discussion, and it's tracked right alongside the document. And that is included with Unity as part of the collaboration module. All right, so this is not only a favorite of mine, but also a user fave. So I didn't want to mark everything as a favorite, which is a problem of mine. I think everything is the greatest feature. But I picked my top 3 user favorites that I hear like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was possible from users. And this is on my short list to demo if we have time at the end. And this is the staple capability. So stapling is available in the OnBase client as well. And here you're seeing 2 documents that are stapled together. And the staple is accomplished using a staple note type. How I make the staple is that I drag from one document over to the other, and I can staple these 2 documents together by this note. Where do I see this used? Not so much if the documents are already cross-referenced based on a keyword, because then that means that the connection has already been established in another way. But there are these ad hoc scenarios where they're not already cross-referenced, or it's just this random heterogeneous document that you wouldn't normally think fits with this packet, but needs to be connected. You drag from title bar to title bar, and just like that, that note staple is created. And if I click on, you can see where my mouse is here, I have the pink highlight around this little staple icon. I click on that. Let's say I just have the document on the left open. I click on that and it will open up the other document for me so that I can see the two side by side. Staples, little known feature, included in the Unity client. So fun, so helpful, because it makes every document essentially cross-referenceable without the administrator necessarily having to configure it. So play around with staples. You do need to have a staple note type configured. Once you have that note type, whoever has access to the note type will be able to add the staples. And we'll come back to this one in a demo if we get the chance. So next I want to talk just a little about custom queries. Custom queries in the Unity client has features far beyond what custom queries are capable of in the OnBase client. And I'll point out a couple of those features here. The first are the filter features on the left-hand side. If you are an administrator of OnBase today, these filter features are set up, I'm not joking, with the single click of a radio button in configuration. So on your custom query potentially that you've already created, you're simply mapping your PO number keyword type to this particular PO keyword filter. And my user, when they start typing, right here within this PO number box, 1, 2, 3, it's then going to come over here and it's going to filter to all of the documents where PO number keyword value matches 1, 2, 3, or whatever the entry is. And setting that up just says that I want that type filter, and when I start typing, it will appear. The other one here is just like you see on Amazon. I want books, used, under $10, shipped for free. This vendor name, again, the vendor name is matching to the vendor name keyword field. And if I select Computers R Us with 19, I know that of these 105 documents, Computer R Us is going to have 19, and it's going to filter this list to just those 19 items for Computers R Us. And then the most fun of these filters, so we have type, instance, and pinch down at the bottom. This invoice amount represents two values across a distribution. It's the distribution of the invoice amounts from $99, which is our lowest, up to $19,000, which is our highest. And as I take those little pickers and I bring them closer together or farther apart, it will actually filter based on invoice amount, and it will narrow my list. So check out custom query filter features. Your users will love them. Here I am using my PO number filter now over in the grid, so separate from my filters on the left. And as I begin to type 990, you see the highlight to remind me that I've added the filter, and then entering the value, filtering to the value down the list. So any questions that you have about custom queries or document retrieval, I'd love to take them. These particular features are very, very popular among users, and I would certainly consider them. So we got the question earlier, how do I add my workflow queue, an individual workflow queue, to my personal page? Well, here's a way in which you can add the results of a custom query to a personal page. So you may want to add the custom query in general. You have multiple custom queries, you always use the one. You can add your AP document search to your personal page, but you can also add the results of a custom query to the personal page. So in this case, just these 5 items right here would be added to the personal page. I could add it to the personal page, and I could say, these are all of the documents with invoice number 3110. And here's the best part, as new documents came in that met this search criteria, document type from our list and invoice number 3110, they would actually be added to the personal page tile. So it's a way to pre-configure a search with the search parameters so that you don't have to keep re-entering the same criteria time and time again. All right, so I moved a little fast there. Here we have our 5 documents. We can separate ourselves now from the search results options. And imagine that I highlighted those 5 documents from AP checks all the way to AP purchase requisition, and I right-clicked thumbnail viewer. That's going to give me this view with a thumbnail of each of the documents that I highlighted, which you can kind of see now in blue behind the scenes. And this is an underutilized feature, I think, and it's one that was just added in the past couple years. And it came from a use case where documents were under indexed, or there was a lot of photographs around the same entity or case file. And I didn't want to, index every photo, front of car, back of car, right of car, left of car, same with the house. And so instead, in order to find the right document or the right photo, they'd view them all in a thumbnail view, and you can hover over any one of these and get a larger view. And then as you double click on the thumbnail, it will open it in the viewer. So a nice way to just get a glimpse of a large list of documents, just like you would in Windows Explorer to view in a thumbnail view photographs that you've got in a folder, you have that same option here in Unity. The next user favorites, this is 2 of 3, are simply the send to options, and I grouped them all together. They're just capabilities, and you can do this via right click or from the tabbed ribbon. All of these options that a user can do with a document: adding it to a personal page, taking it offline, copying a hyperlink or mailing a hyperlink to this document so another user clicks on the link and pops it open in the Unity client. Maybe they want to save it to file. Maybe it's multiple pages and they want to separate it. Maybe they want to copy this invoice or Word document and create a new one and just give it a new name, just like we all would, choose not to start from scratch, but from something that already exists. These are a favorite among users in terms of what they're able to do with documents in the Unity client. One example is to send a document as an attachment to an external email. I need to send this invoice over to someone to take a look at. I'm going to right click on this document. It's an image in OnBase, but with the Unity client, I can actually convert it on the fly, no other additional license needed, to an encrypted PDF. And I can enter the password here. Maybe it's the last 4 digits of their account number, or they already know their social security number. If it's an individual, enter the last 4 numbers. That way then we're not passing around the password, but they're getting the encrypted document securely. We can select individual pages. We can select, if you look at the very bottom, individual notes could be sent with the document burned into that PDF or that image. And then right in the middle where you see invoice review, that is actually a pre-configured email template. And you'll see the email in a second with this now encrypted PDF attached, how it started the body of the message for me. So I'm going to imagine that I click send here on this document, and it's going to pop open my Outlook. And we'll see here that it pre-populated the subject. It attached my now encrypted PDF with my auto name string, and it started my email message for me. This is actually available in all OnBase clients and is set up in configuration. So all you need to do for these ad hoc email sends is create this little email message, and then users will have it on the right-hand side to select from as they click. All right, and our last user favorite, I think probably because it's included in the Unity client and it's something that every organization that I've talked to needs in some capacity, and that is the document editor, or what we may also call document separation. And while it is named document separation, it really is truly more of a document editor, because it is not just about splitting up documents. So remember those 3 invoices that we brought in earlier, in our case as a single file for demo purposes. I can use my scissors and snip between each one of these documents, and it will send it down to an additional row. So I could get 3 rows here. It will keep all of the keywords. I'll just toggle the ones that are different. And then if I change my mind, I can move all the pages back in. If you notice up at the top, there's also options to bring additional documents in. So I can browse or acquire to add new pages. Let's say there's one ancillary page or document that belongs in this file sitting on my desktop. I can bring it in. I can convert images to PDFs. I can combine images and PDFs into a single file and save it in whatever file format I choose. This separation workspace is a huge win, because now no matter how the documents come in, I have the ability to manipulate them in the way that works for me. So let's think back now to the progression of how this would work. I'm going to import these documents. Maybe they come in as a single file. I'm going to use my open document upon import option, just like I did with my integrated workflow. And directly then from the document, I'm going to click my document separation and clip the pages and separate it all up. And immediately, without having to go into any capture space, it's all integrated right into my Unity experience. And in an ad hoc fashion, I can manipulate and edit the documents the way that I need to.
Colleen, we had a couple of quick
All right,
clarification
go for it.
question. So
Yes,
the
please.
clarification requested is just briefly about how security impacts a user's ability to do a bunch of these features that we've covered recently in Unity.
Sure. Well, first, of course, they have to have access to the document itself. I think that goes without saying, whether it's, document-based or keyword-based permissions or overrides. The security of OnBase at the document level can get quite granular. We're looking at folders here. In this case, the user would have access to need to have access to the folder and the document and the keywords to even see the screen. But if we're talking about individual features, it could be anything from a note type to the ability to mail something outside of OnBase or to use document separation. They would additionally have to have those capabilities, those user rights and privileges as well. So, and it can get granular to say, well, I can email the purchase orders outside of OnBase, but not the invoices. All of that can be configured depending on how granular they want to get. But I think in the most simplest sense, you have to think they have to have access to the document and they have to have access to the action, the ability to do the thing that they want to do.
Perfect. That's exactly what we were getting at. Thank you. The second question that we had in this area was about licensing needed to send a PDF to document separation.
Sure. In the case of the Unity client, you do not need any additional licensing to use document separation. However, there is the one little caveat that in order to use document separation for PDFs, for us to do that manipulation of the PDF, it does require, in our terms, the data logic framework, which does require the PDF framework license. It's a low dollar add-on to an OnBase system, but the license that you would need is called PDF framework. Any others, Shaman?
That's it for now. That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing. All right. Thank you for the questions. I very much appreciate it. So here we're looking at the folders layout, one of my most favorite features of OnBase, because unlike Windows Explorer, where you are creating the folder, giving the folder a name, putting the document in the folder, OnBase folders, regardless of the client, create and populate themselves. They're all dynamic folders. So once you set the structure, I want to list the vendor name and then, all of the orders, and I want them like this, and then I want all of the documents in this particular order, just like this. Once you set that framework or that template for how the folder should look, every time there is a new vendor, it will create a folder for that vendor. Every time there is a new purchase order, it will create a new order. Every time the invoice enters the system, it will populate the folder. And it will even show you when you're missing documents. So we have this template that tells us we need these 5 documents for every order in this folder. Not only will it show us what we have, but it will always also show us what we're missing. And just like documents, we can send folders somewhere. We can even add a note to the folder. So instead of just adding the sticky note to the document itself, just like in the old paper world where you'd have a bunch of documents in a manila folder, I can add a sticky note to the top of that manila folder that say, everything in here is classified, or whatever the note might be. But you can add the note at the folder level itself. You'll also notice the tabs over here on the right-hand side. In this case, they're all the same color. Poor design on my part. But each one of these is a different tab that I can click on to help me quickly navigate through my folder structure. Next, we'll look at our forms layout. So we're not going to get into the creation or the building of the Unity forms today, but the Unity form designer is nestled here within the file menu of the Unity client. And these are all point and click configurable, meaning that someone like me who is just, a marketing function or marketing, major, that's what I went to school for. I have no programming expertise, but I can design a very usable logic-driven, dynamic form that captures information and captures it well. Ensures that required fields are entered, ensures that, a zip code is only 5 digits and that a phone number is appropriately formatted. And you can see all of the forms available to the user up here on the top. We see them on the left. I can complete the form directly from here, or I can send a link to this form, just like I did my document, outside of OnBase for someone to fill out. Next, we have our envelopes. This is kind of an underutilized feature of OnBase, and I don't think it should be. So what this is it allows you to create almost like an ad hoc folder, because remember I said our folders create and populate themselves automatically. What if I need a random folder, just a little collection of documents? I can create an envelope for myself, put documents in the envelope that maybe I want to reference later as I'm doing research and collecting. I can also create an envelope and share it with someone else. So now maybe either we're collaborating on a case together, or I've just collected a few items that I need them to review. And of course, as soon as they open up the document, they're getting that integrated workflow experience. So it's almost like I could create a little, ad hoc workflow queue for them. Here's just a couple items that I need you to review. It's just ways to collect and organize and share documents. So the envelopes can be really fun. And then lastly, we have the workflow layout. So just in case we don't get to the demo, if I were to right click right here on this App Manager Review with the number 2 right there, I could add it to the personal page directly from this interface. And you'll notice here within the workflow layout, you have an opportunity to really design and set this up in the way that makes the most sense for the user. So these little pins, right now, my little panes are pinned in place, but I can unpin them, float them around, and maybe I want the life cycles a little more hidden down at the bottom because I'm really only working in one, or I want that at the bottom, or I want the document at the top and the related documents to the left. You can move all of these panes around and build for yourself or for your users, because administrators can do this too, the perfect workflow interface for each and every user. And keep in mind, this is ideally for someone who's doing a lot of processing in workflow. The one-offs, let them just access the document and get to that task tab and execute from there. You'll also notice the tasks up here in the ribbon. This is just kind of a fun feature of Unity as well. And let's say, and there are those documents and there are those processes, you know who you are, that have 10 different tasks that are possible for execution on a single document. This allows the user to maybe reorder the tasks that are the most used for them to the top of the list so that they'll always be the first one in the list. So that's a really neat additional personalization feature found within workflow. All right, so now we covered a lot of the interface. I'd like to talk about some of the user options that are available. So from within your Unity client, and if you're in there right now, you can follow along with me, up in the file menu. So just like Office has a file menu, Unity has a file menu too. And this is where you'll see everything from some troubleshooting information to administrative features that we'll talk about in a minute, to what we'll currently look at, which are some user options. So these are ways for the user to continue to tailor their own experience. And I'll give you some examples of the popular ones that users select. The first is automatically open if search returns a single result. So that is, if I conduct a search and there's only one document that results from that search, just open it up in a document viewer instead of opening it in a list and then making me click on the document in the list. Another one is to automatically display the notes pane when viewing documents. You know, on the right-hand side, I had that information panel and I showed it with keywords, but it can also display notes or the collaboration discussions. A user has an option to say, hide the notes from the document, that you'll see that in the image options here, and then instead display the notes pane on the right-hand side. So you have the option to kind of customize the view, whether you love or you hate the notes splattered all over the front of the document. And then here's some more with regard to workflow. I can confirm with closing. I can always display workflow in a new window. A favorite is the workflow startup options. And there's the big debate between, should it go to the last workflow queue selected view that the user was in, or should it always go back to a default view? And here it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. You have the option to pick where you want to land when you start workflow, where you last were, or always back to the same place. All right. Next, I'd like to talk about just a couple options for administrators. And this is a very short section by comparison, and then we'll wrap up with just a few resources, some more questions, and then maybe a quick demo if we have a chance. So now let's talk about our administrator. And I bring this up because this allows, the administrative arm of an OnBase operation to farm out some of the administrative capabilities to super users and departmental managers without needing to give them access to OnBase configuration. It allows them to do some of the administration, and maybe they don't want to, and that's okay. They can still do it themselves from the Unity client, but it allows some ease in user administration. The first is mass deploying those user options. So we just talked about the user options of hiding the notes, defaulting to a particular workflow queue. This allows an administrator to set some of those user options as a default and then assign it to an individual user group. And you'll notice right here in the center, you see that little blue lock next to the hide notes? If an option is locked, that means that an administrator said, we're always going to hide the notes and they can't change the option. If the item is not locked, let's say here our value workflow, they've set the home layout as workflow, it's not locked. That means that they've set that as the default, but the user can change it to their personal page if they so desire. But it's really nice for the administrator to be able to set out just a default group of settings, maybe based on what they know works for that particular user community. And here we can see the resultant set. So before the administrator pushes things out to the users, they can select the user group and quickly review all of the features that they've pushed out. They can do the same thing with their personal page. So mass deploying the personal page, they set up that default tile set, push that out to the users. They can lock the tiles, meaning that they have to have this tile on their personal page no matter what. I don't see that a lot, but they can then set them with 3, 4, 5 tiles. Maybe they do lock a couple, but then allow users to add their own as well. So it just gives them that first set of tiles to get them started and get an idea. And then again, that's just assigned based on user group. And they would do it just like they would if they were creating their own personal page. And then lastly, we have the ability to manage locks and user administration. So if a document gets locked, an administrator can unlock it. And they can also do those quick password resets, deleting users, adding users, all from the Unity client display. So it does push some of the administrative options, and this is just a small handful. Document knowledge transfer, records management, Unity forms creation, all can take place within the Unity client as well, as long as the user has the appropriate permissions. And then lastly, we'll round out with resources. And this is really the most fun, and I hope for all of you, a chance to find out more information, to play with the software yourself, to read up on a feature maybe that piqued your interest a little bit. First, if you are not on Community, please, please, please join up. This is where you'll find what's new. We do a lot of training with every release on what's new in the software. This is where you can access or ask questions that have been asked about the Unity client. This is also an opportunity to access training. So all training, whether it's free training or it requires access to premium subscription, is all linked directly from the product page in Community. So there are some really great end user essentials that are available for free that will walk you and your users through new features that have been added to the client based on version, but also frequently asked features as well. All right, then we have our quick reference guides. These are at the end of the module reference guides, but I know several customers that will go to the back of the module reference guide and print out and even laminate some of these keyboard shortcuts and general usage quick reference guides for their users. They're at the back of the module reference guide for your version of the Unity client. You can print these out double-sided, pass them out, print them on some nice cardstock, post them up, make them available for everyone. And they're just some quick little training guides and maybe alerting them of features that they didn't necessarily know existed. If you are on the OnBase client or the web client, you're thinking about Unity, but you're not sure, this is an opportunity for you to do that comparison. Does the feature that I know and love in the OnBase client, is it also available in Unity? And then lastly, if you want to play around with the software, then we can go to try.highland and launch a demo lab. So if you go to try.highland.com, that's where these screenshots all came from, you can launch the demo lab in the top, and it will spin up a virtual machine. You log in with Unity password or manager password, and you can even see on the right-hand side, it will walk you through playing around with the software, how to experiment with the personal page, with document retrieval, all from there, directly from this try.onbase. All right, any final questions for us?
Perfect timing, Colleen. We do have a question from Arabella regarding integration to HRIS systems. Can we integrate recruiting applications? What comes with the Unity client that you showed earlier in the display relating recruiting operations? Can we connect HRIS systems and or our applicant software with OnBase/Unity? So general HR integration operations.
Yeah, we absolutely can. There's several different ways in which we, integrate with HRIS systems or HCM applications. One can be, a behind-the-scenes data exchange between the two interfaces. New employee gets onboarded in your HCM. We get that information in OnBase, and in the meantime, you're importing all of the documents around that employee into the Unity client. So that's one way in which they can be integrated. And then another layer to that integration would be, maybe I'm going to live, because I'm in HR, in my HRIS system, and I'm looking at employee John Doe. I can click a button from that HRIS system using Application Enabler, which is part of the Unity platform suite, a little separate from the Unity client, but it looks exactly the same. I'm going to click a button and I'm going to bring up the folder for John Doe in OnBase that contains all of his documents, or a form, or an individual document. So knowing that you're interested in that integration, the TSC team can certainly talk to you more about some of the flavors of integration that we have, whether it's the bi-directional system integration, the data exchange that I talked about first, or whether it's more of a screen scraping app enabler where you're on the transaction and you want to view all the documents that go with it. So great question.
Awesome.
Okay.
There's another question that just popped in.
Excellent.
It says we're looking to use this to archive emails and folders from Outlook. Is this possible with the system? And if so, is there a storage max?
Yeah, sure. So it depends if you're looking to migrate all emails from your Exchange system into OnBase, or if you're looking at a one-off email that might relate to the transaction. And I would say OnBase, if I'm being forthright, OnBase is better equipped to manage the import and ingestion of emails as they relate to the case, the business, the file, or record of information. We don't have too many customers that are storing millions of emails in OnBase just for the purpose of storing emails. But we do have many customers, thousands of customers, that store related emails as it relates to vendor ABC, as it relates to employee John Doe, in the OnBase system, connecting it to the transaction. And in that case, we have many tools to import those emails. It can be ad hoc. I'm going to drag and drop an email in, or we have mailbox importer tools that can bring in anything from a dedicated corporate email box or account, because all of those emails are related and they do make sense to be brought into the system. And that could be, they're all related to a particular vendor and they belong to that vendor. Or we also see it used at, this is questions@highlandsoftware.com. Bring those emails in, we'll route them through workflow, and then someone can follow up as opposed to having to manage that inbox. So again, knowing that you're interested, thank you for the question. That's certainly something that we can follow up with you on and get more information about your particular situation and come up with a solution. So with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Mr. Jack Roberts to bring us home.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen. As always, you do a great job. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
So we're going to close up real shortly, but just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that just like we can do managed services when you have IT outsourcing or even AP or HR, and you really need a specialist that's there for you, and you may not need them on their full staff fully qualified all the time. Just know that that is an offering that's there. So if you want to get the experience that comes with all of our team, you can do so, have that as a monthly recurring where we come back and help you schedule specific times to be proactive, be strategic planning, and really make sure you get the most out of your investment, because we want to make sure that you get OnBase and get all the fullest experience. So that's what this slide is saying. Didn't want to read it to you verbatim, but just know that that's what we are here for if you need it. Okay. So as we go through, we want to make sure that you can reach out to any of us, your OnBase support partner, should you have any questions. We want to make sure that the Unity client, that you use it to its fullest extent, and make sure if you have questions about today, please feel free to ask. We're all here to help out. We're excited to announce that Colleen's going to join us again twice in April. She's going to cover workflow with Adobe Sign, a new module, and reporting dashboards. That'll be Thursday, April 8th. And then we move on to WorkView and rapid application development. We talk about low code applications that you can build on top of your OnBase application. And that will be Thursday, April 22nd. If you'd like to see other topics covered, you have other favorite modules, or even if you have questions like we had earlier about the integration with human resources, feel free to let us know, and we will try to get those scheduled as well, because this is all about you guys making sure that we have the best user experience possible. Okay. We really appreciate everyone attending. We had a great turnout. This has been really fabulous, and thank you again for your OnBase investment. With that, thank you, Colleen. That was great. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any final questions? I'll hang for a minute. But if not, thank you all for your time today. I really appreciate it. And it was so much fun.
And one last thing, if everyone can do the survey, that would be great in helping us plan for future.
Yes, please. And that, Jack, sorry, Tom, that'll pop up at the end?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they'll get a follow-up email with it.
Oh, great. All right. Well, with that, thank you all so much, everyone. I'm sorry we didn't get to the demo, but I can hang on for a second. If there's anybody still with us that had something in particular, you're welcome to type that in, and I'll hang for a minute if you can't stay. I know we're here at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for your time. All right.